Mzee Jomo Kenyatta during events, that hasn't gone away. You know, he had a way to call on Kenyans to, you know, respond in a common sense, in a common call. And you know the Harambee call, right? So I'm gonna do it 1 or 2 for you. You're gonna say, yay, yes, right? Harambee means coming together, right? It's teamwork. And so here it goes. Harambee! Yay! Harambee! Yay! Thank you. I see some of you looking at me and say, what is he talking about? But that's a good way that he used to start meetings. And, you know, for me, you know, it's one good way for me to also get things going. I want to say, you know, that again, thank you for all of you that have made it all the way here today. It's a special day for us, especially from our team. We've spent a lot of time trying to, you know, make this event a success. The room is not as full as we hoped it would be. If you look at the program, say it again? Oh, okay, and that's good. We like the sound of that. But I want to explain that one of the reasons why we had a delay. You know, I think you're entitled to that, you know, in fairness. If you look at the front of the program, we have so many speakers that we lined up, including our keynote speakers from Kenya that are members of parliament, senators, and it just turned out, for whatever reason, late in the last 2 or 3 days. They communicated that they either were not able to travel because they were blocked from traveling. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that, but that's really what happened. And those of us that are Kenyan, we love politics. So we like hearing what they have to say when they get here. And as soon as we learned, some of our people learned that they were not going to show up, they kind of, you know, held back a little bit. So that's been one of those conundrums that we've had to deal with. I apologize for that. It's something out of our control, but it is what it is. What matters is we're here. And these are the ordained folks that are supposed to be here today. So thank you again for being here. With that said, we are going to have probably a very condensed program. You know, we're honored today. We have our Mayor Hollis. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I hope you can still hear me. Okay, good. So, Mayor Hollis, thank you so much for, you know, taking time out of your busy schedule to be one of us here today. And we have our honoree that we'll be talking about, a great man, a father to those of us who look up to him as our father. I do. Senior counsel, Kurunzi, Norwegian. Met him in Atlanta about, what was that, 2 or 3 months ago. I've been reading about him. Many of us have been reading about him. Maybe you've interacted with him. He was gracious enough to say he'll join us today. And we're just humbly honored for you with your presence today. So thank you. And of course, my friend LG, thank you. And the rest of you, our teams that participated in making this, maybe we'll talk about this later in the program. Like I said, it's a condensed program. Dinner, we had arranged to start at 7. And I think, you know, these folks, whatever you tell them, it is what it is. What time is it on your watches? 7:18. So would it make sense maybe we just grab something quickly, or at least start eating, and then we can continue with the program?
We just ate, we just need a little energy. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
That's much better. My name's Harriet Kerubo Sergon, and I am here today to, first of all, thank everybody for being around. In a lot of patience, a lot of virtue shown in your character. I just want to thank everybody for coming today. And I thank you for your patience once again. Now, David had explained a little bit about the reason why we are gathered here today. And I want to thank Mr. Michael for the wonderful prayer to start this service. I'm born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya, and today I had an opportunity to meet people that I could only see on TV, and just to be able to be in the same space with them is actually an honor. Now, as you can see in all the paperwork that is in front of you, we are here for the Diaspora Trade and Investment Summit due to some matters that we were not able to avoid. It's just us, and I believe this is a chosen lot. And I want to introduce somebody to you today, Samuel Jackson. Samuel works in the finance industry, and he talks and deals with something that we all need in our lives: how to work with our credit. I am a culprit, so I'm going to be attentive and learn from him and get those nuggets and see how his financial literacy can uplift us today. So let's clap for Samuel as he comes to talk to us about our credit repair. And pay attention because he uses consumer education to help clients repair their credit. So this is something that we all need all the time. So let's give a hand clap to Samuel.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to need you guys to kind of assist me with my presentation, okay? I have a few questions first before I get started, okay? And I'm going to have to wing it a little different. I had everything on the slideshow, but we're gonna make do with what we have, right? So I have a few questions first. How many of you use credit? Okay. What if I told you I can help you create a better credit score by using consumer law? Have you guys heard of using consumer law to improve your credit score? Most of us, we have increased our credit scores using factual disputing, okay? We write dispute letters, send them to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, right? And we more or less bargain with them, it seems like, to improve our credit. That's the way 99% of us have been taught. I started studying consumer law many years ago, okay? And it completely changed the way I totally look at finances, all right? So if you guys can work with me, I know everyone has a phone, right? We're gonna look up a few things, the Cornell site. Let's go to Google, put in 28 USC 3002. And what 28 3002 states is, America is recognized as a corporation, right? In order to have a corporation, you need a consumer, right? There is no corp without a consumer, all right? So I'm just trying to set the foundation, okay? Credit bureaus are not governed. I'm talking about TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Credit unions are not government entities. Most of us think of credit unions and credit bureaus as being government entities. They use the word bureau in their name to give them power, right? So we think, well, they are government appointed. They're not government appointed, okay? I'm gonna ask you guys to pull up another law. Let's go to 15 USC 1681. 15 USC 1681. 15 USC 1681. Okay, I'm going to start reading it. It says, accuracy and fairness of credit reporting. And this is Congress. Congress has written they have put together this information to help you and I improve our credit, okay? By using consumer law, okay? This is Congress. This is not something I'm making up, all right? 15 U.S.C. 1681 says, accuracy and fairness of credit reporting. The Congress makes the following statement. It says the banking system is dependent upon fair and accurate credit reporting. Credit reporting and accurate credit reports directly impair the efficiency of the banking system. And the unfair credit reporting methods undermine the public confidence, which is essential in continuing functioning of the banking system. It also goes on to say an elaborate mechanism has been developed for investigating, evaluating the credit worthiness, credit standing, credit capacity, general character, and reputation of consumers. Let's go on to 3. Consumer reporting agencies have assumed. Credit reporting agencies, they assume the role as credit bureaus. They appointed themselves, okay? They were not appointed by the government, okay? So like I said, they used the word bureau to give themselves power. They were self-appointed, all right? I'm gonna continue on. It says there's a need to ensure that the consumer reporting agencies exercise their grave responsibilities with fairness, impartiality, and respect for the consumer to have a right to privacy. That's what I want to work with right there. All consumers have a right to privacy. What they're saying is, you and I can dictate what we put on our consumer reports. This is what I was told when I first started trying to build credit. I was told that when I apply for a mortgage, when I apply for an auto loan, it is up to the credit bureaus to automatically put that on my credit report. That's not true. They have to get my written consent to put anything on my credit report. It's not up to the creditor. It's you and I. You dictate what you want on your consumer report. So just say if I have a late payment, I can have it removed. If I have charge-offs, I can have it removed. I don't have to be at their mercy, asking and begging them to remove it. I can use consumer laws, just like we used 28-3002, also 15 U.S.C. 1681. These are all laws that I use to remove any negative item off my credit report. So when you write a dispute letter, I use consumer laws to remove those items. Let's see what else. What else can I? Question: What do you guys consider a good credit score? What's considered to be a good credit score? Does anyone know? I'm sorry? 680 and above is considered good. Anytime you hit around 680, I'm sorry? 680 and above is good. Anytime you hit 680, you can walk into a dealership, apply for an auto loan with no issues, apply for a mortgage, no issue. But as you get into the 700s, 720s, that's when you start to get the better interest rates, okay? But anything 680 and above is good. I tell folks, strive for 680 and, let me go here. There are also things that you can do to help get extra points, okay? Just say like, there's a way, just say if you're not a homeowner, you're renting, you can use your rental payments to increase your credit scores. Has anyone heard of rental karma? You can report your rent payments to get points added to your credit report. Have you guys heard of being an authorized user on someone else's credit? So just say if I have a American Express, I can add you as an authorized user. You get all of my perfect history, just say over the last 10 years, which will help you increase your credit score. So there are ways to piggyback off someone else's good credit to help improve yours. Folks, that's about all I have for now. I know our time is kind of short, and I didn't really have everything I planned on sharing with you guys, so I'm gonna cut it here. But if you guys have any questions, you can see me after everything wraps up. Thank you.
I think for those people who live in Minnesota that normally say I do too much, I'm not pointing fingers at the table, but I think you can add this to one of my new acquired talents, or maybe I'm perfected, or hobbies. I'm going to introduce to you somebody who is very dear to the city, somebody who has worked hard for the sake of the people of the city, and his passion has gone way, way beyond politics, but just for the need of people. His name is Hollis Winston. He is the mayor of the city, Brooklyn Park. Let's give him a round of applause. When I first met him, he did not look like somebody who had the spirit of losing. He was right in the middle of a campaign trail. And he just walked in, and I was like, who's this person? And he was leading like he should. He's originally from, I want to say Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, but now he's gracing us with his presence and doing his passion and what he does best. Mayor Winston, our community is honored to have you in our presence today, and we want to thank you for coming to gather with us and show us your support. And we would like to welcome you to the stage and share your wisdom.
Thank you, Harriet, for that wonderful introduction. Please forgive that I'm a little casually dressed. I actually came from touring something outside before this. And it was hot. I think you guys know it's a little hot outside. It's a little weird for Minnesota for us to be in the 80s this time of year, but I think we'll all take it. You know, it is an honor for me to be here, especially in the presence of folks who do so much for the community. You know, in the spirit of the actual event, I just want to say a few things. I think, you know, coming to this event, you know, it's important, I think, for when we talk about folks in the diaspora, the Kenyan diaspora, investing back home into y'all's country, right? I think it's incredibly important because I think one of the things our world has struggled with is we know that often in the African diaspora, when we travel to other countries or the treatment that we receive is not equal to how we see ourselves. It's not equal to what we brought culturally to the rest of the world. It isn't equal to who we are. It's not equal to what we've given, whether it's cultural, whether it's human rights, whether it's just the birth of humanity itself. And so I think many times what the world doesn't understand is the capacity and the capability in Africa. And so when we look at Kenya, I think investing back into Kenya, a stronger Kenya, right, is a Kenya and is a part of Africa that can help the rest of the world understand what we contribute and what we have contributed as a diaspora, as a people. I don't know if that's a take that everybody has brought to the table, but I think it's incredibly important in that the Kenyan voice, especially as we have so many Kenyans in our city of Brooklyn Park, the Kenyan voice is an important voice. Right? And I'm not going to call any other African cultures out, but Kenyan culture tends to be a little bit more humble, right? I'm not gonna call out the people. I'm not gonna call out the cultures that are not humble, right? We don't need to do that. They know who they are, you know who they are, we know who they are. But I will say that because of that humbleness, I don't think Kenya always toot y'all on own horn. You don't talk about what you have contributed. You do not talk about what you can contribute, and then people often take that for granted. So I think investing back home is incredibly important. But I also think it's important, a little bit self-interested here, that we invest in where we are here now. So we talk about our city of Brooklyn Park. I just want to kind of lay out some of the work that we're doing in Brooklyn Park. And much of this work is aimed at our communities. So in Brooklyn Park, the easiest way for me to start is Brooklyn Park is the 5th or 6th largest city in our state. We believe we're the 5th largest. Doesn't always show up in the census because we have a huge immigrant population and we don't always come out for the census. We don't always trust the census. And I get that. But we're probably 87,000 strong. The number 4 is Bloomington. They're about probably 89,000 or 90,000. Their commercial property values, and I was telling somebody this earlier, is they're about $5.5 billion in terms of commercial property values. We are $2 billion in this city of Brooklyn Park. That's a $3.5 billion difference. For those of you who live in Brooklyn Park, you know that that kind of cascades down into you paying higher taxes maybe than someone in Bloomington. I don't like it. I know y'all don't like it. So we have to cover that gap. And it's an opportunity though. And I don't think people always look at it as an opportunity. But when we look at covering that $3.5 billion gap, one thing that Brooklyn Park has that very few other metro areas in the entire United States have is we got 700 acres of undeveloped land. And one thing our city has done is we said 200 acres of that are going to be a biotech district. Why that is important is because when you look at Maple Grove, which is just up the street, and for those who are visiting, you don't need to waste your time visiting Maple Grove. I'm just going to give you a picture of you. Brooklyn Park is where it's at. But from Maple Grove through Brooklyn Park, through like Coon Rapids, we have a ton of medical device companies and biotech companies. And so what our city has said is that similar to a Mayo Clinic in Rochester, we're going to have a biotech district. We're going to be open for business to support biotech here. Why that is important is because you know that very often when it comes to communities like ours, diverse communities, when it comes to biotech, when it comes to cutting edge technology, people often overlook us for those opportunities. So our city is going to fight to make sure we have a biotech district. And then people and kids who live in the southern part of Brooklyn Park who would never have those opportunities, whether Kenyan, Nigerian, Liberian, African American, Oromo, all these different, Somali, all these different communities, we're going to fight to make sure that they get opportunities to be in biotech, whether it's a job they can get right out of high school paying $60,000 a year, or they can grow into management, middle management, or they can be upper management, right? But there are opportunities there. Here's the other thing that I need people to be very aware of. Brooklyn Park is 60% people of color. That means that as we develop that 700 acres, the people who own that need to be 55-60% people of color. It needs to represent the people in the community. So we're going to need your help with that, right? Just like you help by sending back to Kenya and investing in Kenya. And by the way, I'm going to invest in Kenya. I got to visit first. I got to say that first. I got to visit first, and I got to find out what I'm investing in. My wife is going to make sure of that. But we're going to visit first, right? But just like you invest there are opportunities here that we want the community to be aware of. So if we're building a biotech area, that means there needs to be housing, there needs to be restaurants, there needs to be amenities, there needs to be entertainment, retail, all sorts of things, right? And so we're leaning into our city saying, look, we've got this diversity. We're not going to run from this diversity. We're going to double down on the diversity. Let's make sure the ownership is there. And then as we start businesses to surround that biotech or to be part of that biotech, or to even service biotech, we're going to fight as hard as possible to make sure it represents our community. So it's incredibly important that even as you invest back home, as you understand that there are opportunities here that can help you further invest back home and vice versa, right? Because we in Brooklyn Park are beginning to say, look, it's not like the old days. So the initial waves of immigrants that came through, Italians, Irish, Polish, other groups. When they came to America, they said, I'm American. I'm American. I happen to be, and I'm just gonna be a white American. And that's it. It was not, I'm going to invest back home. It wasn't a lot of going back and forth back home. It was a different approach. Well, we realized in Brooklyn Park that, no, if you came from Kenya, you're not gonna cut off all those relationships back home. Family is everything. The village is everything, right? Keeping those relationships open and that back and forth is incredibly important. And so we're saying as a city, we understand that. Let's lean into that. So yes, as you invest here, also invest back home, but how do we, and folks can talk to me offline about this, how do we begin to have conversations about saying, let's have trade back and forth, right? Let's have cultural exchanges. Because if you live here, it's a much smaller world. We've got Zoom, we've got virtual, we've got so many different things. So how do we invest to make sure that we are talking back and forth and keeping those exchanges open? It's incredibly important. I also think it's a way for us all to prosper. Because if you can't prosper in it, you're not really talking about much of anything. That's one thing that we've learned. So I'm not going to talk too much longer about that, but I just want folks to know that I'm very much in support of business, whether it is folks partaking overseas and creating partnerships over there. One of my good friends actually has an IT company, and he sources some of his IT folks out of Kenya, right? So we're living in that world. And that's an African-American brother that has said, I know what's going on in Kenya. I'm gonna start doing business, right? So we're realizing that. So know that I'm supportive of that. I'm also supportive of investing and creating a special place in Brooklyn Park. The last thing I'll close out on is that Brooklyn Park is a special place, and I don't want people to ever forget that. If we are 55-60% people of color, 35 to 40% of that is African heritage, and a large part of that is Kenyan, right? We do not want the city to turn to a place where Kenyans show up for 15, 30, 40 years and then disperse. We're saying we have a cultural opportunity here with the diaspora here. How do we ensure that in our city that diaspora is respected, and 40, 50, 60, 75 years from now, much of the diaspora is here, but there are cultural and business, financial, social institutions here that respect those who came and built something here. We want to build a monument to that in Brooklyn Park. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I want to say thank you to everybody for the opportunity to speak here. I love what's going on here. You already captured my attention on this thing, so I think it's important.
In Atlanta, it brought so fond memories of my father, because that's how I knew about this man. And we became friends, especially with LG, his son. And sometimes when I spoke to him or when we talk, I say, you know, man, you know, cherish him. You know, of course we all cherish our parents. And I'm just humbled that I've had this opportunity to be in front of you. I'm not gonna take too much time here, but man, at this point we want to ask, and he will get a chance to speak. He's our keynote speaker actually tonight, but because the mayor is in a little bit of a hurry, we requested if he could do us the honors of presenting him the award. We call it the Lifetime Achievement Award, to recognize his achievements and the contribution to our country. So, Senior Counsel fellows. Where's the camera? Just a second. Let's make sure the camera is rolling. Here. It's so quiet, man.
Let's give a round of applause.
At this time, I want to call on one of our speakers tonight. She is a Gen Z. You heard me allude to what generation I belong to. But as you all know, these last several months, I've actually presented a very vivid picture of the generational differences between the older generation and who we are and the younger generation. I think some of us thought that Gen Zs were probably too spoiled, but if you look at what's happened in Kenya in the last several months, they put many of us to shame in the sense that they speak their mind, and it's through their speaking of the mind that we're seeing a paradigm shift in the way the government responds to our concerns. So with that said, I met this young lady on one of those, what do you call it, SpaceX. They had organized in Kenya. We had all this demonstration that really shook the government, and she was a big part of that. And so I met her, invited her, I said, can you come tell us what is it about you that we should be on the lookout for? Because we want to be able to support you, and whatever we missed, hopefully we can link up and make things happen for the better about our country. So with that, welcome or invite Leanne Jalani to come say a word or two.
Thank you so much. I'm Jalani. I'm a bit nervous.
Don't be.
So, distinguished patriots and citizens of the great Republic of Kenya, thank you so much for inviting me to Minnesota and giving me the opportunity to address you today. Before we begin, I would like us to take a moment of silence for the young Kenyans who died in the struggle, in the liberation. I know when I say that, people might think I mean the independence struggle, but what we have is an actual struggle for a new Kenya. We've lost so many of our comrades. We also lost a few kids in the Endarasha school fire that just happened. And we've also lost a lot of Kenyans as a direct and indirect result of corruption and bad governance. So let's take a few moments to just bow our heads in silence for those who fall. Thank you so much. So, again, my name is Jalani. I'm one of the many vocal activists who have come out to fight for a new Kenya. I'm also a student of business, international business and policy at Georgetown University. Over and above that, I am a founder of Jalani Foundation, and I'm also one of the directors of Kikao. These are organizations that have been founded to enhance civic education in Kenya and to increase political education amongst our citizens. One of the projects we are currently working on that I'm particularly very, very proud about is we are digitally illustrating the Constitution of Kenya and translating into about 30 or 40 languages. So I have writers and cartoonists because we realize that people respond better to pictures than they do to legal verbiage and long text. So that's what we are currently a third way done, and we're hoping to be done in about 6 to 8 weeks. I'm extremely proud about that. But also because people come to forums like this to brag about their achievements, sort of like a grade here. I want to tell you that I made my first million when I was 23 years old. and I lost my first million when I was 25 years old. So I understand a little bit about money and business, and I guess that's why, because of all that, they invited me to speak to you today. They wanted me to speak on governance and Gen Zs, but I want to speak to you about active citizenry, because I think that that's what activism is. It's being an active citizen of the country that you belong to. And I think that this is a role, as guys, like young people, we're not prepared for, but was thrust upon our shoulders nonetheless. And a lot of people in this conference who do business in Kenya might look at what we're doing and think, oh, this one's wanachomanchi, they're anarchists. And I want to draw your attention to Dia Khan. I want to change your mind from that perspective. So Dia Khan did a study of neo-Nazis and jihadists, and she found that they're not driven by hate. You might think that they're driven by hate, but they're not. They're driven by a sense of having a lot of unmet needs, a sense of community, finding people that are in the struggle with them. And if we were just to draw a parallel, even before we did that, we could potentially say that they're driven by love. A love for a cause, a love for feeling like they found community and found people who share the voice that they have. And if we were to draw parallels with the Gen Z struggle, we would find that Kenyans are suffering together, whether you are middle class, whether you are lower middle class, if you're low income, we're all suffering together. So being able to find that voice, that community, having an opportunity to speak about unmet expectations, unmet needs, that is what the protest is about. And you find that being able to come out on the streets to have this unified voice to speak about corruption and bad governance and to understand that our voice matters. These are things that are protected in the Constitution, 2010 Constitution. And I think as business people and people who are here to talk about investment and doing good for Kenya, I think that is something we share, the Gen Zs, millennials like myself, and yourselves as business people and investors. So we love Kenya so much. You love Kenya so much that you're in America earning what you're earning and thinking about how do we invest at home. We are here in America thinking how can we make governance better at home. So we speak the same language. We want the same things. We want the betterment of Kenya. And I guess the unfortunate bit is that speaking out and protesting has led to the deaths of so many. So, why are we protesting? Why are we on the streets? Why are people like myself and other people insisting that, we need to be on the streets, we need to protest, we need to, make noise digitally, we need to make noise physically? What is the reason that we're doing that? And there's a lot going on at home. If you haven't been home in a while, if you've not been following the news, there is so much. And my fear as a young person is that we're not going to have a home to go to if we do not fix what is going on. I think it cannot be business as usual when police use bullets to disperse peaceful crowds. It cannot be business as usual when we are back to the era of forced disappearances and abductions. It cannot be business as usual when so many of our youth have been murdered since June 25th. It cannot be business as usual when the truth about the Githurai massacre is being buried. It cannot be business as usual when the country is languishing under the burden of odious debt. Trillions was borrowed and ended up in the pockets of a few. It cannot be business as usual when crazy bills like the rice bill, the dengue bill, the livestock bill are being brought to Parliament, making sure that we do not have food security. It cannot be business as usual When Murkomen and David D and others come online to spit in the faces of Kenyans who employ them. It cannot be business as usual when the government treats court orders like suggestions and is basically run like a criminal enterprise. It cannot be business as usual when doctors, teachers, engineers, nurses, intelligent people, our best and brightest, languish in poverty, and the government's only plan is to export labor to other countries. It cannot be business as usual when they want to reduce your role as a diaspora Kenyan to just remittance and sending money home, whilst denying you an opportunity to have your voice heard. It cannot be business as usual when projects like SHIF, CBC, university-funded model are launched and pushed, denying Kenyans access to adequate healthcare and great education. It cannot be business as usual when our minerals and our natural resources are being sold to shadowy entities. And finally, it cannot be business as usual when they're trying to sell our airport. These are things that have happened over the last only 6 months. If we start to uncover the things that have happened since 2013, I think we're all going to end up in hospital with drip because we're going to be so stressed. It's getting worse. The more silent we are, it's not getting better. It's not getting better. And a lot of you in diaspora have the argument that people need to vote wisely. And I'm here to tell you that is a fallacious statement and you need to stop saying it because that comes from a place of ignorance. People are not able to vote wiser because they're not given wiser choices. The IABC, the system is broken. You have to choose between bad and worse. There are other social and economic factors that result in people voting how they vote. I think the first election that I ever voted with sound mind was this past one, 2022. Other times I just voted based on what my parents wanted. Women vote based on what their husbands want. Kids vote based on what their parents want. So many factors that result in Kenyans not voting wisely, and I need us to stop victim shaming and blaming the voters and think about and brainstorm how we're going to fix the system. I want to say there is no army that is coming to save us. There's nobody. The West will not save us. The UN will not save us. We have to save ourselves. And as young people, we've given our lives. We've gone on the streets. We have used our social media, but we need help. We cannot keep doing it on our own. All of us in diaspora globally have to become active citizens. Because if we don't fix this now, when are we going to fix it? And if it is not us standing up to fix it, who is going to stand up to fix it? There are only two sides of this coin. The people that stand for the Kenyan people and for the prosperity of the Kenyan people, and the people that stand against the Kenyan people who stand with the oppressor. And you have to choose. You have to choose. You cannot go on pretending that you will do business when young people are dying and being abducted, when money is being, people are buying watches worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. It cannot work. It cannot work. And if we don't rise up, I'm telling you, if we don't rise up, the next conference you're going to invite me to is Invest in Malawi. You'll not be able to invest in Nairobi. There'll be no land because the government also has a bill against the land. They want to own everything. You would not be able to do business there. So I'm here to say, listen, you know, you could say we are whiners, you could say we are causing anarchy, you could say all those things, but I will tell you, we need you guys. We need the older generation to step in. Stop asking why are the Gen Zs complaining, ask what can we do to help them? How can you support people at home? If you could send money to the people mobilizing, if you could help us lobby, if you could introduce us to people that will hear what we have to say. My best friend Nelson Amenya is the one who put together the Adani he's a whistleblower for the Adani deal, and we've been working together to try and get as many media houses to report on this. We've put together a small task force. So we need help. That's all I'm here to say. I'm saying we need help. We need to fix Kenya, and 2027 is too damn late. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. How do you top that? Thank you. Where is Kurunzi? Okay, we'll call emceeing this, but I think she had an idea to have our friend here, Milton, do a thing or two to I don't know what to do. I know, right? Come on.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
How are you guys? Am I too loud? That is perhaps the reason why I stood up. But I want to take a moment and appreciate everybody for being here. And picking up from where Jelani has just left, I think it is important that whenever we decide to engage on something, let us be engaged. Because I think the reason why a lot of the things that we complain about, or a lot of the things that go wrong, they do so because we don't get as engaged as we should. But allow me to say this. My grandmother taught me something. I have my uncle here, so I stand the risk of telling something inaccurate and therefore being weak later. But I'm going to say nonetheless that enyamanke yakora bukimake. Did you understand that phrase? I see blank faces. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is that I know Dave began by giving us, an anthology of sorts about why we are where we are and how things have unfolded the way they did. And every time I was thinking about the situation, I told myself, my grandmother told me this thing. So I look at empty chairs here and I'm thinking, is this the moment that Kenya men came out of Is it? How many of you understand that language I'm speaking? So, we may be few, but we have a reason for us to be here tonight. And it was purpose that we will be here tonight because there is a reason, there is a mission for which only those of us who are here tonight could be part of. I don't know whether that makes sense to anybody out there. But I do believe that even the multitude that we may have expected Dave, they were not cut out. That was not their destiny. That story was not on their pages of life. Those who are here are the few, and this is for LT, my brother, and a few others like Jelani, who may not understand the French that I speak, that a small piece of meat, those of you who understand our brothers and sisters from Luya, kuna watu wanakula ugali, mpatie mboga kadogo tu hivi, and they finish a whole plate of ugali, right? Mboga ni ya kupatia ugali motivation ya kufanya nini? To go down, right? And they still are able to finish a whole plate of ugali. And if you grew up at a time like I did, and at a place like I did, you know that sometimes tulikuwa tunakula ugali ile imelala kiporo, and we eat it with salt, and life continues. Right? So tonight I am here to say, and I hope Kerubo is somewhere, I'm trying to look at where she is, that tonight we will be able to say that even when we expected as many people as enough to fill this room up, the few of us who are here would still have that ugali that was for last night with salt, and we will still walk out of this place and we say we are full because we have been fed more than we ask for. So I want to encourage all of us, in the spirit of the evening. We're talking about diaspora, trade, and investment. Now, it is important that we create proper nexus between your interest to invest back home and the leadership. And by leadership here, what I mean is it is political, administrative, and policy. If there is no nexus between those three and you connect them to good governance, there is nothing. Soil merchants will tell you, and you spend your money on them, there is no knowledge that Major Financial Group is going to tell you about that will help you to do anything meaningful for the people you left back home. And I say that because I come from the school of, I'm a father to a Gen Z. They call themselves Gen Z Alpha. And I want to tell you this. What is happening to us today, unless we rise up and tell ourselves that we need to be more engaged, we need to speak truth to power, like Senior Counsel Feroz have done for many years with his colleagues and some of the people that have stood up. I want to tell you, it will not make sense what we invest, because we will be doing it and we have leaders who masquerade as being leaders, but they are dealers. And those dealers, they are running the country as though it is their private property, and what they do at the end of the day is they are feasting on your blood. You work so hard in this country, you do double shifts, and you do all that you do. At the end of the day, you're sending money back home to try and help your family, your sister, your relative, and at the end of the day, it will not make economic sense. It will be financially imprudent thoughts to have, like our brother here said. You will be sinking your money into a deep hole. So it is time for the diaspora, African diaspora for that matter, to be able to rise up and take charge of the affairs of the countries they come from. Because you know what? You are sending your money and they are saying, let those fools keep sending the money here. We will waste that money and we will loot it because we have the governance knife. So what they do is not govern. What they do is loot your money, and because you don't care so much, they will squander it by way of taxes. You will invest in business and you will blame your relatives because you set up a business for them and it didn't work, and you say they are wasting you. But the truth of the matter is that the people who are wasting you are those people in places of authority that make policies, that impose taxes that do not make sense. At the end of the day, that is why the country and what Gen Zs in Kenya have done is to tell you guys, we don't have a country. Does that mean anything to anybody? We don't have a country. So if there are people who are guilty of anarchy, it is not William Ruto who stands to say that enough is enough. The anarchist is William Ruto and the cabal that he leads, because he is a servant of the people who is now trying to masquerade as a boss. If that makes sense, then all of us would rise up and say no to bad politics, to bad governance, and say that. And Feroz, Senior Counsel, will tell you about this if I'm wrong. There is nothing called security of tenure for political office in the Republic of Kenya or anywhere in the world. If I am wrong, I stand to be corrected. So when people tell you that they are going to run down the country until 2027 because you elected them or they stole the election and you have to wait until 2027, I am telling you today, there is no security of tenure for an office called President of Kenya, MCA, Member National Assembly, Senator, and name it. When they don't do their job, you people live in a country, in a first world where when you don't do your job, you face the sack and you go home. You don't talk back at your boss, do you? Does any of you talk back at your boss? When they say enough is enough, what do you do? Take a walk, right? So what is this thing that our so-called leaders, in quotes, are telling us enough is enough and we are the boss and we are not happy with their performance? How dare they? That is the message. And I see Harriet is back. I'm a journalist. I get paid to talk, so I can talk until tomorrow morning. But all I wanted to say as Harriet comes to take over and tell us who speaks next, I was trying to cover for your time as you took your break. Let us be engaged in the affairs of our country. The anarchists are running us out of town, and we think that we are safe because we have found ourselves in this country and elsewhere in the diaspora. We need to realize that you're safe because your neighbor has something to put in their stomach. The moment they don't have it, they will come for you. And Feroz can tell you about that analogy that was said by a famous person who said, when they came for my neighbor, I kept quiet because it wasn't me. Until they came for me, and there was nobody to help me. Just think about that. Thank you.
Milton and I have a connection, and it's called KBC, for those who know. We are products of Kenyan Broadcasting Corporation. Maybe we should take up our old jobs. Once again, thank you very much for being here and your patience. We want to welcome a very, very wonderful man. His name is Michael Kurunzi. I had the opportunity to meet Michael a couple of weeks ago, and I can tell you, he loves his grandchildren. I mean, I heard on the phone. I haven't met them, but I was like, man, he loves his kids. So he's here to talk to us more about financial literacy, and I actually love this. Our motto for this, and our reason for being here today is to talk about trade and investment. So I don't take anything for granted, the fact that we're here, and there's a lot of talk about financial literacy. Let's just take that and soak it in. So, Mr. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor, privilege to be here this evening. Through our good relationship with David, who I met 18 years ago, and he became my brother. I am a licensed realtor in the state of Georgia. I do real estate business in Georgia. But I'm not here this evening to talk about real estate. I'm here to talk about what has been ailing all of us, I included, in this country. I'm talking about America is a compound interest society. Why? We work so hard, somebody said double shift, to keep our rights on. We get our money, we have to pay taxes on it. But we end up with a lot of debts. If I go through the list of liabilities that we have by generation, majority of us are the silent generation. The liabilities that we have is 810 billion. How is it spread out? Mortgages, 500 billion. Consumer credit, 170 billion. Other liabilities, 140 billion. What about our baby boomers? 5.1 trillion. Mortgage is 3.4 trillion. Consumer credit is 1.1 trillion. Other liabilities is 620 billion. What about the millennials? 5.5 trillion. Mortgages 3.4 trillion. Consumer credit 2 trillion. Other liabilities 100 billion. And the Generation X, 7 trillion. Spread 5.2 mortgages, 1.6 trillion in consumer credits, and other liabilities 230 billion. The rich get richer in this country. The poor get poor, and the middle class is struggling with debts. Most of us are immigrants. We came to this country to look for green pastures. We have been paying compound interest in the following areas: credit cards, compound interest; car notes, compound interest; student loans, compound interest; mortgages, compound interest. And guess what? 85% of working people even hate their jobs. 51% of adult population have zero money saved for their retirement. 43% of student loan borrowers cannot make their payments. And 38% of households have credit cards debts. How and why? And how do we move forward on this? And how do we overcome this? 5% of the American society has the secrets of wealth creation that is passed from generation to generation as we talk. That's this 95% of us. Outside this. What are these secrets? How to save money, how to earn money, how to grow money, how to protect money, and how to transfer money. Those are the secrets. So the question I'm asking you and I, what is your responsibility? Your responsibility is to understand money. Understand how money works. Understand how money works is part of taking care of you and your family. And guess what? This is about the financial gain of life, and it is to invest like the wealthy and generate tax-free income. And I'll repeat, generate tax-free income. And for some, we have to pay taxes. But there is a system here that grows your money tax-free. And this is not in the banking system. I'm holding a book here known as Family Bank Strategy. Because guess what? If you want to hide information, write it down and put it in books. Why? We don't read. This book in Amazon is $19. How to create your own personal tax-free bank and protect your estate from creditors and predators. It is not written by Michael Kalu. This is a book written by David T. Phillips. What am I talking about? I'm talking about areas that we are not familiar with. We are in very unfamiliar territory. And our responsibility is, how do we save money? How do we earn this money? How do we grow money? How do we protect money and how to transfer this money? And this is on 3 specific areas. This is about inflation, it's about taxes, it's about compound interest. I know majority of us here have bought homes. I'm a realtor, I sell houses in Georgia. You know how much you pay your mortgage for your house, correct? I want you to take out your phone, go to your calculator. You know how much you pay per month. Take that figure. You know how it is. You know your mortgage. Take out your calculator, multiply your monthly payment times 12. That is the amount of money you pay 12 months. Then multiply by 30 years. That is the amount of money you pay through compound interest. How do you earn your money? When you open your account in Bank of America, Wells Fargo, you earn your money by simple interest, 0.02 interest at the end of the year. And even if you make $2 interest, at the end of the year, you receive a letter from the bank that you have to pay taxes on the $2 you made interest in your savings account. What am I saying? Where do you locate your money when you get that paycheck from your employer? It matters. Because if there's anything that you're gonna leave this place with, there are 2 principles of money. Principle number 1, make money and don't lose money. I want you to note that down. Make money but don't lose money. That is principle number 1. Principle number 2, never forget rule number 1. If you have read the book by Warren Buffett, he is an advocate of those 2 principles. Make money but don't lose money. But never forget rule number 1. So how do you lose your money? If your money is in an account that does not grow above 3% inflation rate, you are losing money. And I'm using 3% as a historical inflation rate. You know what is the inflation rate today? So if your money is in your savings or checking account, you are losing money. Taxes. The only way I can describe taxes is like this. I know you are familiar with this. This is called, most of our money is located in 401k. 401k tells us, don't pay taxes. You pay taxes, and this is your paycheck. This is your grain. This is your paycheck. Don't pay money now. Pay when you harvest. Am I communicating? Sure. This is your paycheck. Don't pay taxes. When you are 59 and a half, pay your taxes then. Will taxes be lower or higher? Higher. So if your account is in that account which is tax deferred, hey, you are losing money. Compound interest. Albert Einstein says, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays for it? Why is compound interest so important? It's because when we deposit our money in those accounts, what we get out as interest, simple interest. Do you know what the banks does? They take that money and put it into a compound interest account. So when you want to borrow money, you go through the credit system. If your credit scores are good and you get qualified, they loan you the money. How do you pay the interest? Compound interest. That's why when I sell homes, of course, I organize for mortgages. The first 20 years of that mortgage, you are only paying interest. Where is this compound interest located account? Because if you go to your bank and say you want to open up a compound interest account, there's nothing like that exists. But there's a compound interest account in this country which is available for the 5% of the society in this country. I'm just reading this book. You know who was the former Federal Reserve Chairman before Colin Powell? Ben Bernanke. The biggest banker of all, former Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke, has the majority of his liquid wealth invested where? In insurance products that promise guaranteed rates of return. The question here is, why does he have more faith in the insurance industry than he does in the Federal Reserve System? Ironically, banks are legally required to have a foundation of very safe liquid assets known as Tier 1 capital. Life insurance is considered to be so safe that bank regulators allow life insurance policies owned by banks to meet their Tier 1 capital requirements. In fact, as of June 2011, the nation's bank owned guaranteed high cash value permanent life insurance with a surrender value of approximately $155 billion. The question that you should ask yourself is, when will the bank die to be paid death benefit on a life insurance policy? Because what we only know life insurance as a policy for death. It's a death insurance. That is what we relate life insurance with. What we don't know is the wealthy, the 5% in this society, use life insurance policy to do what? To create personal tax-free bank and protect your estate from creditors and predators. We know life insurance from the other side that it is a policy against the dead, while the wealthy and the 5% of this society knows that life insurance, they use it to accumulate wealth and protect it, that any money that is inside this a specific life insurance policy known as IDEX, Universal Life. It is about asset accumulation, and the money is protected, and no creditor can be able to attach any money in that account. That account, money in that account is accessed tax-free. You don't pay the taxes. Those who have the opportunity of creating those accounts, and I'll just be very generic on this area because this is a highly regulated industry. So I can only talk one-on-one but I'll be very generic on this statement. That in those specific accounts, an account is created when a child is 15 days. It is created by either the parent or the grandfather. That's why I am in love with my grandchildren. Money is deposited in those accounts. So when this kid becomes of age of going to college at 18 years, he or she doesn't have credit, the student loans. The money is available there, which has been growing by compound interest. When this child becomes of age, and you know in our community we say, now watu hawapendi watoto wanawafukuza. We don't know what they do. Because they come to Mr. Karu, they want to buy a house that time. They put down 50% down payment. When we are putting 3 to 5% down payment, 50%. Where does this money come from? That account. 5 years down the road, the mortgage is paid off. At the time the child reaches the age of 32, he has already graduated. There are no student loans, there are no mortgages, no credit cards, no car notes. And you and me, you have credit card, car notes, mortgage, student loans. We have to work 3 jobs. Am I communicating? Yes. So when this kid comes out of college, then gets into a working environment, fanya kazi moja, so they don't become idle. You know why you have reached this position? Because there is an account that was created for you. And this is the amount that you used to pay for you. Now, create your own account. He's told how to open that account. So now those are 2 accounts which are running parallel. By the time the kid now has matured to start his own family, then during the wedding, I have attended some, there's a wedding gift ya insurance inapatiwa nini? Mtoto. And you start wondering, how do you give a policy as a wedding gift? Because we don't know that this money which is being transferred, cash accumulation. By the time that kid is at 65 years old, guess what? 2.2 million is in that account, from the account that was created by the parent or the grandparent, and we have no clue. So I'm here to tell you, it is now 8 months since I came to learn about this, and it blew my mind away. So I'm here to tell you, my brothers and sisters, that yes, it might not be too late for us, but the information that is available is in these books. If you come to my house today, I opened a library because I have bought all these books to understand how come in 20 years I've never come across this. And I had my life insurance policy whole life, 5 years. When I came to this country, I had a term life, 10 years. I was an insurance agent before I came to US. I was working with Arico. My office was in Serena Hotel. So I knew about life insurance. But guess what? I knew life insurance from the perspective is if I die, my wife will not have any challenge. Or if she dies, I will not have any challenge. Kumbe. Life insurance is about asset accumulation and protection. It is not about death. If you have critical illness, if you have a chronic illness, up to 90% of the face amount, I'm now talking about the insurance. By the way, when I knew I had to come and talk in this meeting, what did I do? I applied for a license in the state of Minnesota because I cannot talk about insurance without being licensed. I have now a license from the state of Minnesota to talk about insurance. It is a regulated industry. But you know what? Our people don't want to hear about insurance because you want to tell me I'm going to die? Insurance here is about asset accumulation and protection. So each one of you has my pen. That is my business card. I work with this company, World Financial Group. I represented 10 companies in the United States of America and Canada. I have now 37 licenses, including now Minnesota. Because I have to communicate this information to our people, because it's not shared on public domain. It is on this conversation that I can communicate this. And I hope you are not going to put that recording live. So I'm happy that I came. I'm sharing this information. And I'm also encouraging, I cannot be able to reach out to the young Gen Z. So I am also recruiting that generation. I can guide them in the process of getting licensed so that we can communicate this information. Most of my time now, I'm not in real estate. Because there's so much information that we have been ignorant or we didn't know about. Who else have been given that opportunity now to talk about it? So I arrange Zoom meetings. I go to homes and talk to families and share this information. When I share this information, what you're going to do with that information depends on you. But I can show you how you can structure that company. It's not about myself. I have one, because I could not comprehend. I have a whole life insurance and it doesn't have any cash value accumulation. So when I created one in December, and there is this tax code that you can max it. As long as you don't pay more than what the tax code which has created this account, you can put as much money as you can. And that's why my good friends, even they are selling their plots in Kenya, plot mafuta, they are putting it in this account because the money compounds. So your plot mafuta, you can see it here, and you can be able to access that money. How do you access it? You take it out as a loan. Do you know how much interest you pay? Depending, if you take it between the first 1 year to 10 years, it is 2.75% interest. And guess what? You don't have to pay it back. Where else in the United States of America can you borrow money and you don't pay back? It is lying well. But if you do, the money is plowed back for you. Those are details. Thank you, David. I appreciate this time. So if you want to talk to me, you can have one-on-one conversation. Thank you.
I was wondering what that maize God was doing on his table. I thought it was one of the ladies who brought them. And since the ladies are Minnesota residents, I was going to have a field trip with them, a field day with them in their coming event next month. So I do believe, Susan, you have been saved by the bell, or should I say by the corn. One of the biggest golden nuggets I have gotten today, and yes, I was paying attention, It's what he said about life insurance. A friend of mine recently gave me a very weird birthday gift. Nobody gives me birthday gifts anymore. That's it. Take note. She gave me a birthday gift in a form of an email to study life insurance. She actually paid for it, health and life. I'm yet to cross over that path. He said something important, that life insurance is not about death. I was like, what? When I die? But it made more sense. He's saying life insurance is not about death, but it's about wealth accumulation and assets, and the protection of assets. You almost got it. So right now I want to introduce soil merchants. Believe it or not, they have come all the way from Nairobi, Kenya, and they're here to tell us more about their investment strategy. And let's welcome Mr. Kurunzi here.
Good evening. I'm Jambo. I'm Jambo Tena. I come with greetings, so many greetings from the Republic of the 254, that is Kenya. Mnazipokea ama mnazilisha? I can see so many empty desks or chairs that were supposed to be settled by politicians. I can confirm that they have sent me. So I'm going to speak on their behalf. So without much further ado, my name is Frederick Kiroi from Soil Merchants Property Developers. If you lend me your ears, just for 10-15 minutes, I'm going to give you very good nuggets, just to pick on from where my brother Michael has left the information about zero interest, compounded interest. We'll share with you much more information about how you can own yourself apartments in the CBD in Nairobi. Is that good news? Yes. You want to listen more? Yes. Lend me your ears. So I have a video here that shows us briefly about our company, Soil Merchants Property Developers. I'll request my brother Rufus just to dim the lights a bit so that we can be able to see it, and then we can pick it up from there. That's it. Thank you.
Jambo, welcome to Soil Merchants Property.
I just want you to first pick your brochure, and the green logo is Lemi. I just want you to first have an identity of how our branding looks. So it's called Lemi. It came from Lemonade Finance. We shortened it as we went into China. And if you know their characters, they're so short. So if the name is too long, it was impossible. Anyway, my name is Keke Ombacha. I am the country manager for Kenya. So yes, I come from Kenya, born and raised, but I shuffle between Kenya and London because that's where our business is. Lemi is a money remittance business. We help Kenyans in the diaspora send money back at home. We started in the UK and now we're entering into the US market. I'm proud to say that in the UK we are the leading remittance company, and we started last year in March. So it's taken us practically a year and a half to dominate the UK market, and US is where most Kenyans are. You people send a lot of money back at home, and we thought we should give you value for your money. So I'll keep it short and I'll tell you why Lemi. We have the best exchange rates. We try to stay very competitive. How we do this, we make sure that we have the best partnerships in Kenya that do the termination. Second, we have the best customer support. We're easy to get to. And third, you can actually receive money from Kenya. People don't know this, but from the app, if you request from here to your M-Pesa, you can receive money in your app and you can convert it to any currency that you currently need. Third, Fourth, actually, and my favorite, is you can pay directly to pay bills and till numbers. This actually came from feedback we received from Kenyans in the diaspora, where they said that they have situations that when they send money back at home, it's never used for the purpose. So how we made that is we partnered up with local businesses that allow us to then pay out to the merchant. So if you're building a house, you can directly pay to the construction company and buy the materials. If you have children you're supporting your school fees, you can pay directly into the school. If you have somebody in a hospital, you actually pay directly to the hospital. So these are the things that really stand out for us. We are innovating as we go. So any need that we find people have, we build as we go. So why am I here? You've talked about sponsoring, you've talked about investing back at home. For us, this is important because you work hard here and we want to make sure you get value for your money. So that means having the best exchange rate constantly matters a lot. So people say that, oh, having the best exchange rate isn't a big deal, even if it's like $1, $2. But the truth is you're sending a lot of money at home. So if you look at it in bulk, it's actually a very good value for money. Lastly, if you do not remember anything from anything I have said, I just want you to remember that we are an African business and we want to support you living here and that the exchange rate is the best. You'll meet me, I'm here to support the businesses. And also one thing that is key for me is community. So we're trying to immerse ourselves in the Kenyan communities. So if you do have events for women, we love to sponsor our women because statistics show that women are sending most money back at home. So we're looking to sponsor and support women. All the initiatives you have, from bridal showers to baby showers to just everything that entails that. And for men, we will not forget you, all the boozies that you're hosting and trying to bring and empower your boys. We're here for that. That's all from me, and it was lovely meeting you guys and see you around the community. Thank you.
And think about your children, your grandchildren, even up to the 4th generation. The idea that you can set up certain vehicles, put them in place, they will help you during your life journey. In the event of death, it can help you eliminate debt, pay off your mortgages. In the event of a terminal, chronic, critical illness, critical injury, you are covered. That's the beauty of this country. So I know my brother is looking at me. That means it's a signal that, hey, it's time to go. So I want to thank you very much. But yeah. Okay. So because I know it's almost going to 10 o'clock and we don't want to keep people here for too long, right? Yeah. So importance of budgeting and all that stuff. So, but the concept of creating generational wealth. Did you know there are some vehicles in this country, and I would like all of you in this room, and I know my alumni there. We went to the school in Kenya, and when you hear the school, that means you only went to one school. So we believe we are the only ones who went to school in Kenya. And there are only 2 schools in Kenya. And that is Maseno School and Nairobi School, right? Those are the only schools in Kenya. So if you went to any other school in Kenya, so you need to, but the concept of creating generational wealth. How many of you, even on your own bank account, have a POD? How many of you have even a living will? How many of you have even a simple living trust? So we have had cases the immigrant community, somebody passes on here. Maybe they had, let's say, life insurance on the job, but they didn't, the way we believe, like we don't, tell people that I have this, I have ABCD. You didn't select your beneficiary designation correctly. And then somebody passes on, guess what? That money goes to the state. Because the insurance company, once they receive notification that somebody else, let's say, passed on, that's somebody else's property. So it goes to the state, it's held in trust. So but how do your people back home get to know that you had those assets? So that's why you need to meet with people who are qualified, who are certified, to educate you on these things. But the concept of creating generational wealth, that is an area you need to meet with experts. You have a lot of them in the community. Take advantage, get information from them, especially living benefits life insurance. The idea that you can get a plan, you are covered in the event of death, your beneficiaries receive a tax-free distribution. Terminal illness, chronic illness, critical injury. You turn age 65 or retirement, that living benefits life insurance turns into a lifetime tax-free income distribution. In closing, I'll give you a homework. When you get home tonight, check the IRS code, section 7702A. My phone number is 301-905-7677. If you want to know more information, let us talk. Thank you very much. And David, thank you for inviting me. I'm just so excited. I'm really humbled that I'm in the same room with a legend, Neros Ferigi. Thank you. God bless you.
And as you can see, our senior counsel has done a good job. So we're also going to give him a clap for raising up his who pays the bills. In the light of today, I would like to welcome the person responsible for this gathering and the person responsible for bringing us here. I have known David for so many years, I lost count. I was too young, I guess. The only thing I have in common with him, other than our love for politics, and is the fact that the first place I ever landed in America was Atlanta, which happens to be his home base. And the fact that we do speak a similar tongue, or one similar tongue. David, we want to thank you for coming and for bringing us together. And let's give him a
Thank you so much, Kurunzi. And once again, I want to thank all of you for being here. I cannot say that enough tonight. I don't know if I need to reintroduce myself, but most of you know me by now. David Ogego Chwangi, based out of Atlanta. I head this organization, the Association of Kenyan Diaspora Organizations. Our mission is, to say mildly, is to advance our common welfare, whatever we make that to be. And we started this organization several years ago. And I'm happy and proud to say that we made strides in reaching out to all our communities across this country and across the pond or the oceans. I think we have members from Europe and other places. So we appreciate so much that every time we show up, I show up here, we make new teams to organize these events, and this is where it ends up. Like I said at the beginning, we probably didn't get the turnout we were expecting for reasons beyond our control, the uncertainties that happen in life. just like my good friend now. I call him my brother, actually, as she just said. But today, I want to spend a few minutes. We themed this meeting as a diaspora trade and investment summit, purposely so, because again, as you just said, I'm literally dovetailing a lot. He wasn't prepared to speak, but I feel like he speaks what I meant to say. The best practices in doing business. Now, at this juncture in our diaspora existence as Kenyans, I think we're presented with a ton of great opportunities to make meaningful and valuable contributions in terms of capital investments and capital flows between the United States and Kenya and Africa for that matter. In addition to running the Akido Group, several years ago, before the pandemic, we started an organization for profit called Diaspora Capital Group. We're what we're considered to be pre-revenue, meaning we've not made money, but we built a lot of sweat equity, meaning we've spent time to learn where the opportunities are and how we translate those opportunities into profit and how we translate those opportunities to investments back home in Kenya. As the saying goes, Africa is not poor. It sounds cliche, but Africa is not poor. It's poorly managed. And that's a big difference, So we've tried the best we can, as much as we know, to leverage our wherewithal in the diaspora, what we can raise, what we can invest. And it turns out, especially right now, that there's opportunities in real estate, there's opportunities in tourism, there's opportunities in capital infrastructure, right? There's opportunities in AGOA that is expiring. And so at this point as we stand, there are efforts within the United States government and other institutions to find out how best they can utilize us in the diaspora to advance trade between Kenya and East Africa and whatever else in Africa. This might have geopolitical implications because as we sit here, China and the other Asian countries are actually taking strides and trying to, I don't know whether it's called recolonize Africa, but they've made a mark in Africa. The United States is finding out that, they're probably late in the game. And I think strategically they've decided that, one way to do it is actually to utilize or leverage those of us from Africa. There are more of us from Kenya in the United States than anywhere else outside of Kenya, right? But they're not catching up to that. There's an organization called Prosper Africa. And they've been tasked, it's a presidential level organization, but it's been tasked to see and figure out ways to improve trade to Africa, or between Africa and the United States. And I've attended multiple meetings. I mentioned sweat equity with Diaspora Capital Group, but when I appear there, I'm showing up as the founder and president of Diaspora Capital Group. No revenue, right? But still, we're doing good, and I feel like we're making headways in terms of getting interest to those that they're looking, as we speak here today, they're looking for organizations or African-based organizations in the diaspora that they can partner with. They will fund. They will, if you qualify, they will fund you to actually help promote business. In other words, make deals happen. Be a real dealer, if you will. So we're pursuing that. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, I wish that our MPs or the folks we invited would be here to hear this. Because I feel that in a sense we're our own impediment, not us here in the diaspora, but back home. those opportunities that we could really make a difference in, it's the government or those in authority that are standing in the way of us making that difference. Let's take an example of real estate. Did you know, what did they bring up? This government brought up, this government and the one prior, they brought up schemes. I call them schemes because they really don't, have rhyme or reason to them, but they still brought up plans on how to increase and build more homes or habitable homes, affordable housing they call it. But they're going at it maybe the wrong way in the sense that they're taxing folks. And that's the opportunity. And that's the disconnect between what's available now in this market, because folks are looking to fund those projects if they believe that they can be done correctly. One way to do it, which is what we're pursuing, and I'm speaking this openly here because if any one of you is interested in partnering or figuring out how to do it, or knows how to do it better than we can, please, see me or contact me. I know most of you have my contact. Let's join hands. But one way to do it is through REITs, right? Real Estate Development Trust. There's none right now in Kenya because the last guy that had it, I don't know if I can mention their names, I saw a clip of them being run to court the other day because they swindled people their money, right? And there are multiple cases of those instances where people just come here, especially in the diaspora, and take advantage of us and take the money. And really, we realize way too late that the conveyance wasn't done right. Money has been taken and spent the way it wasn't supposed to be spent. And the cases are all over the place, and the history is complete of those instances. But if we, and in Kenya right now, if you wanted to start a REIT, it's almost impossible to do because we have our own barriers or impediments by our own government that simply say that in order for you to be a member of a real estate investment trust in Kenya, you got to have at least 5 million shillings. I think it's 5, if not 10. How many of us have that kind of money to put aside for real estate? While in the United States, there used to be a thing they called qualified. You have to be a qualified investor to be able to do that. But now they've substituted with crowdfunding, so to speak, so that anybody that want to be invested in those kind of investment vehicles can do that. So I'm throwing that out there to you guys, that we can formulate a very good framework that works for us, that then we can use to go and find investors where we can. And it seems like there's a lot of goodwill to do that. We need to be able to band together and convince the Kenyan government and whoever else in East Africa or whatever that may be to remove those self-inflicted barriers that prevent us from investing when we can, so that we can accelerate the kind of investments we need to make and get a good return for our money, for our investment. If the Chinese, Americans, or anybody else, whether it's the Indians, Chinese, whoever it is, they see opportunity in our country. So nobody can say there is no such opportunity because they see it. Whatever they see, we can see, right? So I'm inviting all of you. I'm inviting all of you to join hands, reach out to me, check out the site. Maybe we're doing a little bit of improvement on it to make it more nimble, if you will. But we're inviting many of you to join so that we can partner and try to see if we can make an impact. I know we can make an impact. This most recent, the raging debate in Kenya right now is about the Adani deal, right? So, we're telling this government that, rather than taking all these kickbacks to do bad things or do things under the table, if you even give us part of that opportunity as a diaspora, with all the money we spend or even send us remittances, we can build that airport. I mean, we can have a new terminal no time at all. We don't have to lease it out. We don't need a title to it. You know, we can take sovereign guarantees if that's what it takes, and we can invest. So there's ways to do it if folks are willing to listen to us. And that's the message that I wanted to convey, at least in this setup, in this setting, so that we know we can plant a seed. My idea is to plant a very good seed, and hopefully it sticks. If there's not, maybe there's just one thing that you get out of this meeting, at least for me, is that the opportunities are there, and we have the wherewithal in terms of, you know, the brain power to think and do these things, and we, you know, make enough money collectively, that is, maybe not individually, but collectively, that if we put it all together, we can have a much bigger impact. So those are the remarks that I had. I prepared a presentation that I will put up, but in the interest of time, I guess I'm not going to go through it. But I hope that I made a good enough point for those of you that are interested in that. Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you for very kind words. Most of Thank you. I'm speaking about business and the rule of law. Business persons bring market reality into the courts of law daily. Business people speak reality, common sense, logic, financial logic, where lawyers speak the dissection of words and the interpretation of meanings where a word has simply one meaning. But conversely, business persons also have to bring the rule of law into their daily business. If this is not done, then after a while a real danger emerges. Just as we did not bring constitutional reality into our politics, Kenya has landed up by having politics without any rules. You can do anything, anyhow, in order to secure a political result, a political office. And once office is obtained, we are prevented from asking, how was it obtained? And so, we should not land business into that situation where business too becomes a set of transactions without any rules. That is not rational capitalism. So, as business persons, you have to continually press for rational capitalism. And the basis of rational capitalism, or some of the bases, are the enforceability of contracts, the protection from the courts against fraudulent business, the availability of judges who are independent of political control. Because in Kenya, or anywhere where state actors are the richest businessmen, your competitors are also used to getting their way in business as much as in politics, before judges, and also, sadly, also before arbitrators So watch your arbitration clauses carefully and try and seek a board of arbitrators which really genuinely gets you an independent arbitrator. Now, the safeguard for rational business is the rule of law. So the rule of law encompasses fair and impartial judges, equality of parties before the court, remedies for breach of agreements, independence of the judiciary, but, and I'll come to this later, independence of public officials, the civil service, and access to all these protections is what is set out, and the visible and the public contract of the rule of law between all Kenyans and all parties in Kenya is the Constitution. So all these safeguards are anchored in the Constitution. A live example of all these, meaning the presence of safeguards and the presence of processes, and yet the presence of a crisis, is the way in which the government has brought the Adani companies into the Kenyan commercial investment and national infrastructure scene. This is not rational capitalism. This is robber baron capitalism, where outcomes emerge and are ensured through the very close ties of the intending contracting parties with very high offices in both the states. Such capitalism disobeys, disregards, and disdains law and the Constitution. We must remind ourselves that the Adani entry, but we must remind ourselves, however, because that bad entry has not become a fait accompli only because there is a very strong public demand in Kenya for compliance with the Constitution and the laws in national decision making on such important deals, meaning for a return to rule of law. And for this demand, we have to thank the Gen Zs. Because the Gen Zs did not only speak for themselves, they spoke for the silent people in Kenya who had not spoken up, and any whole scientific, intuitive or whatever would say that when the Gen Z spoke, 80%, if not more, of the country said, yes, that's exactly correct. So thank you. It's therefore, we go back and say that politics is without rules in Kenya. But we should technically also look at it. How is that? What are we really saying technically? Technically, we are saying that whatever is being done is contrary to the Constitution. But it is contrary to the Constitution while there is already a Constitution in force. And so you have a Constitution in place and governance which is contrary to it at the same time. And so, while there has been a Constitution in Kenya for long, we have had total control over the judges' decisions, torture chambers at Nyayo House, regular assassinations, Robert Oko, Bishop Muge, J.M. Kariuki, Karimi Nduthu, Pio Pinto, Boya, Ngala, Father Kaiser, the IBC murder, as Macbeth said, will that long line continue forever? And yes, there is a real danger that authoritarian regimes reach that point where they tip over without solutions into this course of conduct, and they think that the assassination of one person ends their problems. And so, while from 25th June, they have looked for the one person or institution or organization which, if they can eliminate, they would put an end to the nonsense that these youngsters are doing. So they looked for these persons and said, this is Uhuru. And then they said, no, it is Raila. And then they said, no, and came up with Ford Foundation. And then they said, no, because he's meeting Ford Foundation a few days ago, forgetting that his wife was a recipient of that Ford Foundation money, and no doubt, because they're very generous, was passing on that money to them. So, all this was forbidden even by the old constitutions. But the contradiction, contra-constitutionalism, has an inevitable end. It breaks the country, because the country is torn between the two, and neither has a solution to offer to the wrongs that are going on in the country, or even the rights. And so, in 2008, we broke. Divided country, no solution, no belief in the presidency, no belief in the courts, no belief in the churches, no belief in the mosques, no belief anywhere. And that break in 2008, we were fortunate, we survived it, and we barely survived it, and we worked towards a new constitution and came to Constitution of Kenya 2010 to prevent a repetition. But we are now again still threatened by contra-constitutional governance and rule. So, indulge me to explain how is it possible to have a constitution and yet rule like this, a one-man rule, a one-party rule. And there are three constituents. There are many, but three major ones. The first one is taking total control of the judges and magistrates. By doing that, this deprives any political opponents, any person who has suffered an injustice, without a remedy, to bring such persons to become without a remedy. And when they have no remedy, this control continues and contra-constitutionalism continues. Secondly, and this is what escapes our sight, because it's not as visible, and it is this: by taking not only control of the judges and magistrates, number two, control of the civil servants, which is now called the public service. So, President Moi would rule every morning. He was extremely hard worker. He would be up at 4, and he had an arrangement with God that I'll pray to you daily, but you don't audit too closely what I do the rest of the year. So he would then ring up intelligence. What has happened during the night? And intelligence would say, well, in that time there were provinces, that coast region was quiet, but there was a problem in say, Rift Valley. Then he would ring up the provincial commissioners and get their account, what has happened, and they would say nothing has happened, or 3 things happened in Rift Valley. So he gets that. Then he would ring up a constable in a police station in wherever, say the Rift Valley, for example, and get his information from that. And then, if it was being fostered, for example, by James Orengo, as Mr. Mesha said, then he would tell the police station there, we are arresting that guy and we are sending him to Mwea instead of Kisumu. And you better watch what's going on and who is going to. So a thank you to Mr. Mesha for standing as surety on a bed. It was not easy then. His name, his particulars, everything would be fed into intelligence. So what happens is, Moy then instructs the provincial commissioner to tell the police to go and arrest Mr. Orengo. Now, you don't hear about that step being taken because the policemen say, well, what is the charge? What shall we? And the president would say, well, that's your problem. You go and find a cause to arrest him. I want him out from this situation here. So you don't see that. He is arrested, and then the instruction goes to the treasury saying, take away the allocation of this district in Nyanza. James comes from Siaya, and see that the road which was to be built there is stopped. And then rings up the DO there and says, tell them, everybody, at the next baraza that the road is spoiled because Nyanza is making trouble through Mr. Orengo. None of this is in the newspapers, and this is going on all over the country. That is why you saw when the president moved to say Naivasha, he would stand there, and in a line there were the PC, the DC, and with their helmets and uniforms and their saluting, etc. And he's talking directly to them, bypassing the MP, the minister. They're all there, but they're nothing. He doesn't need them. Does he need lawyers? No. Does he need accountants? No. Because he tells the treasury, this is to be done. To those who are accountants here, let's take Goldenberg. The payments from the treasury require 4 people before the LPO can be acted upon with a check. You've got the clerk in accounts who sets out, who's told, pay this much, so many million, and it is for exports. So he does that. Where's the voucher? Well, fine, it'll come. We'll give it to you. Then it goes to the cashier. The cashier looks and says, fine, this is there. It goes to internal audit, and then it goes, number 4, to the permanent secretary, who is the accounting officer of every ministry. 4 signatures were needed. How come there were 4 signatures always available for a total of 4 billion shillings at a time when we never talked in billions? It was finally in the Goldenberg Commission when the PS, Dr. Koinange, medical doctor, comes from a family, extremely respected family. He's asked in Goldenberg, why did you sign these things? He said, because I was afraid of my life.